Hi, welcome to TheatrePulse, where we tell you what is happening at the center of the heart of theater in Ventura and Los Angeles County. We had the opportunity today to catch up with the current director at Camarillo Skyway Playhouse. Ken Patton is directing 9, the musical, which opens on this Friday.
Actually, a week from Friday, October 2nd.
Opens on October 2nd. So, Ken, you've won some nice awards for costume design. I believe Guys and Dolls in 2014 and the Rocky Horror Picture Show in 2012 were some of the awards.
That is correct.
You also did some costume design for Next to Normal. Were you the costume designer?
Yes, I was the sole costume designer for Next to Normal.
Oh, okay. And let's see what else I have. You wrote a musical. Is that correct?
That is correct. Well, there was 2 of us. I did the book and the lyrics. And my partner, Paul Duffy, who's the music director for this show, wrote the music for it.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about that musical?
Yeah, it actually had its world premiere last year, High Street Arts Center. It is, I guess the best way to describe it is it's a James Bond musical.
Okay.
It's in that era. It's in the 60s, and it has that flavor and feel to it. So we just basically took the basic premise for the whole James Bond story and we turned that into a musical.
Now, is that your first experience being a playwright?
No, actually, I've been writing for years. I belong to a writers group in Los Angeles, the Eclectic Writers Group, based out of the Eclectic Theater in North Hollywood.
Oh, that's neat. And you said, you were saying something about a play in the pre-interview, a play that premiered in Workshop last year?
Yes, it's called Mine. It's a 4-character story, basically about obsessive love, about a woman who would do anything to get the man that she wanted. I do mean anything.
So you have some interesting themes to your writing.
Yeah, actually I do.
Okay. And you had a writing revival in 2003 of a really interesting play.
That one's kind of cool, yes. There was a musical, Star
Mites. Oh, it was a
Mites.
musical, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Star Mites, written by Barry Keaton, and it won a couple of Tony Awards back in 1989. And
You have to Google that on your own.
Yes, Google that.
What is it called?
Star Mites.
How do you spell it?
Starmites.
Okay. 1989.
Yes.
Some of you might be too young. You have to Google it.
So in 2001, Barry was interested in doing a revival, but he felt that he was too close to the material. So myself and another writer, John Lonoff, he partnered with us, and we helped him revive it, rewrite it. We contributed lyrics for new songs. And it actually had an off-Broadway run in 2001 and again in 2003.
Oh, that's so exciting.
And it was the very first off-Broadway show that Matthew Morrison did.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I love that we have this talent in Ventura County. I do have to apologize for the ambient noise. Camarillo Skyway Playhouse is located right by a major road, and this was the only time that I could catch him. And also by a small local airport, so...
Yes, and we would be inside, but there's no air conditioning. The theater was just opened 15 minutes ago. It is ridiculously hot. That's why we're out here.
Go Drought, California. Okay, so is this your first directing endeavor?
It's my first here at Camarillo Skyway Playhouse. It's my 24th show directing.
Okay. So, 24. Well,
yeah.
What would you tell us that you enjoy about directing with that many under your belt? It doesn't get old?
No, not at all. But I'm really selective about it. I mean, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't happen that often. It happens every 3 or 4 years or so.
Okay.
Part of it because I'm not a first choice for a lot of theaters, which is fine.
Even with 24 shows under your belt and all these awards and other things?
Ventura County has its favorites, and I have no problem with that. I am glad to be able to play in the sandbox whenever I get an opportunity. And the other part of that is sometimes I am offered stuff and it doesn't speak to me. In order for me to do a show, it has to really speak. I have to connect with it.
So what particularly direct? Do you prefer to direct musicals or straight shows? Because you've written a musical. 9 is a musical. Is there something that speaks to your heart more in doing a musical versus a straight book show?
Yeah, I just my background's in theater. My degree is in theater. I have a performance degree in theater, and so for me, it's all about musicals. Of the 24 I've directed, 23 were musicals. 1 was a straight play. And that straight play was here in Ventura County. It was Vanities at Camarillo Players in 2011.
Oh, I actually like that show. Okay, so let me ask you this. What attracted you to this particular musical? You said that they have to... Sorry about the traffic. You said they have to speak to you in order for you to choose to do them. So 9, it's kind of an interesting show to choose to do. What attracted you to this particular one?
I saw the revival on Broadway back 2003, I believe it was 2003, 2004.
Don't look at me. I'm really bad at stuff like that.
And,
anyone that knows me can vouch for.
Give yourself more credit than that.
That's why I have Haley. Hide from the internet.
And I thought the musical was innovative. I thought it was revolutionary. I thought that it was a very powerful piece of theater. And there were things about it. I remember sitting in the theater and watching it and saying, well, if I ever get a chance to direct that, there's a few things I would do differently, and I'm getting to do that here. Part of what's going on in this musical is the lead character, Guido. He's having a mental breakdown.
Okay.
So you don't know from scene to scene, from line to line, whether or not the person he's talking to is actually there or is in his mind.
Okay.
Originally, the way the show is scripted, there's a core group of main characters, or there's a core group of characters, and there's an ensemble as well. Mm-hmm. To me, I thought it would be more powerful to take away the ensemble and really focus everything in to the 9 women. As each of those 9 women, they're an archetype. And
okay.
They all serve a specific purpose in Guido's life.
So that's a pretty bold choice to remove the ensemble.
Oh, I didn't remove them.
Oh, okay.
I shifted them.
Oh, okay. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So I took those 9 central women, and I took the ensemble roles, and I reassigned them. I didn't change not one line of dialogue. I just changed who said it.
Oh, that's clever. Okay, so something that I do know is that there's been some criticism of 9. I read this. That the women in the show are written more as props than as characters in their own right. So, okay, well, let's take it as this. As a playwright, did you feel that was the case? And as a director, did you feel that was the case? And if you did, how did you handle that situation? Was that part of the ensemble choice?
That's actually a really cool question.
Thank you.
I actually do see where people could feel that or believe that. I've seen the show twice. I've seen 2 different productions of it. Okay. One time I did feel like the women were just there as set dressing. Okay. And it really bothered me. To the point where that the whole folding the ensemble into the women to me became
large truck.
To me became even more important, because by having the women have more to do, more times to interact with Guido, you're really able to emphasize and bring out and show and develop their characters more.
Okay.
So as a playwright, yes, depending on how you mount the show, that is definitely a way to go, because since each woman is an archetype, if you hit that note, if you keep telling people, it's like, oh, I'm the whore, so I'm going to be a whore all the time, or, I'm the mistress, let me vamp it up for you. There's more to each of these characters than that. Right. Each of these characters have many more layers than that. And so I did try and delve into that and explore that. So I feel that we stepped away from that.
Okay. So, aside from that, what did you think were the main challenges going into this musical? Now, I know that this particular theater has its own set of challenges that a lot of other theaters in Ventura County do not have. That aside, because we can talk about that in a second, but just in the musical itself, what did you think the challenges were? Or what have you found to be the challenges in directing this particular musical? It's okay to say, none, I did great, everything's fine. But nobody's going to believe you.
No. It's the word challenges. Because to me, a challenge is something that you have to overcome.
Right, like an opportunity.
Yeah, and I actually would have said, for me personally, it's opportunities.
Okay.
Opportunities you embrace, challenges you have to overcome. I didn't feel like there was anything that I needed to overcome in this show.
Okay.
There were a lot of things that I needed to embrace and find a way to make better, or find a way to make palatable or approachable.
Do you have some examples that you're willing to share?
Oh, no. I'll talk about anything. I have no problem with that. For me, what I tried to keep first and foremost in my mind is, in my research for the show, this musical was based on Fellini's 8½. The original title for 8½, was Beautiful Confusion.
Beautiful Confusion, yes.
So I tried to keep that first and foremost in my mind when going through this, because one of the opportunities in this show is to let the audience see that each of the stories that we tell, that we approach, they're not always Guido's stories. Oh. Sometimes, most of the time, 90% of the time is Guido's. But Folies Bergère, for example, is Liliane's story.
Okay.
The beginning of Be Italian, when we discover the situation that
I enjoy that you're not giving it away.
Yes, the situation.
Because there's going to be plenty of book reviews. There's going to be plenty of people telling you about the play.
Yeah,
I enjoy
and about
that he's
this
not giving it away.
situation that put Guido on the path to becoming the man that he becomes. That story is actually Luisa's, his wife's. It's told through her eyes.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting journey, trying to lay a nice, clean, easy to follow path so that people can tell whose story is being told at what time and whether or not that person is actually there or not.
Okay, so let's go back to the opportunities given by the theater. Did you see what I did there?
Be like it.
Yeah, I'm like this all the time. Okay, so have you had to alter set or change lighting design that you wanted? Things that you had to work with that were either really great or just anything in particular with this particular theater that other theaters might not have had to do? As a director, that can often be an additional mindset. It's a different way that you have to look at the play, the size of the stage, or what is available, how many bars for lights you have, that sort of thing. Any fun things that you've had to gotten to look at and handle for this particular theater? I mean, I know you haven't done tech yet, so it might be you're putting that off till later. But
Yeah. Tech will actually start in 4 days. Yes, pray for me.
Breathe.
Pray for me. There have been a few challenges. There have been a few. Well, actually, this time the word applies. There have been a few challenges. But
I'm not sure that the general public knows. This theater has very specific challenges. I mean, the wing size alone is interesting to deal with.
There is no wing space.
There is about 2 feet?
Yeah.
It's about 2 feet, which I'm a pretty small human, but if I turn sideways, I take up more than 2 feet. Yeah. So putting whole sets, you cannot put whole sets in there. things like that, right?
Right, and we thought about that, or I thought about that from the beginning, having done Next to Normal here last year and being familiar with the theater. The set is a static set,
Okay.
which helps immensely. Now, the challenges have not been creative. They've actually been budgetary, which is something that you experience with community theaters. I mean, there are some community theaters in Ventura County that, due to great patronage and great fundraising, they have the funds
But they're very few.
Yes.
It's very limited. I agree. That is something that is happening within the whole county and Los Angeles County as well. We are seeing that as a real issue. So support the arts, people. Go to the shows and not the movies.
Listen to her, please.
Netflix is a thing, yeah. I'm going to get all these people that are like, dislike, make her go away.
Well, I don't know. I mean, is that fair for people to dislike the truth?
It's hard for people to see paying $20 for a seat at a theater the same as paying $20 for a movie, just because of how much money goes into movies, I think. Please don't blow up the comments with arguing about that. It's just my theory. But the amount of work that actors, directors, the techies, all of the people personally put into the theater out here, and we're only talking about community theater. Everyone out here is a volunteer. So all that money goes to nonprofit. So it's a huge deal. I'm going to get off my box now.
Yeah, but I'm going to climb on for a moment. She's right. Everyone's volunteers. And all the money from ticket sales really goes to operating costs. And it goes to just paying for basic expenses for each show. I mean, someone's got to pay for the sets. Someone's got to pay for costumes. That's where that money goes. It does not go in an actor's pocket or in my pocket or the set designers. No, we all volunteer.
Yeah, for the community theater in the area. It's different for professional, but... okay, so let's move a little bit.
Okay.
Nine was recently made into a movie musical.
Yes.
Right? Okay. I'm gonna be Nicole Kidman. Just saying. Okay. So most people, when they come to see a show, if it's been made into a movie, a lot of times they'll go, it is on Netflix, go see the movie and expect the show to be very similar, if not exactly the same as the movie. Which a lot of times, some things like Singing in the Rain is often very similar to the movie. Guys and Dolls can be very similar to the movie. Do you think that the script for this is very similar to the movie?
Not at all.
Okay.
There are songs that people will recognize. There are characters that people will recognize, but there are also characters that, while they have the same name, are wildly, vastly different than the character is portrayed in the play.
Okay, so did you have any of your actors emulate any of the choices from the movie at all?
No, actually, each and every one of my actors, they're bringing unique choices.
Their own things?
Their own things.
And did you tell them not to do that? Or did you care? Some directors don't care if their actors watch the movie and choose similar things if they're small bits. Some people want it to be like the movie, and some people say, don't even watch the movie.
The movie was part of reference material that anyone could look at. I had no problem with that. But I strongly encourage, from auditions forward, I strongly encourage people to find their own way and find their own character.
Okay, let's talk about the casting process for this show.
Okay.
That is always something people want to hear about. Okay, so to start, you know a lot of people in the area. Did you have people in mind when you were auditioning? Not were you pre-casting it? That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, a lot of times when a director wants to do a show and they pitch it for a theater, they'll think to themselves, do I have the actors for this? Who do I know that might show up for this? Who can I encourage to come out and audition for me? Did you have people like that in mind?
I had a wish list of people that I hoped would come out, yes, most definitely.
So what kind of thing were you looking for? This particular show, Did you need anything vocally or emotionally? What kind of thing were you looking for?
Vocally, yes. The music in this show is some of the more difficult musical theater music out there.
Big truck.
The music in this show is not easy.
Is it Sondheim not easy?
It's Yeston not easy, which is its own, in my mind, is its own bailiwick.
Okay. Different but hard.
Different but hard. Yeston, unlike Sondheim, Yeston's music is difficult, but it's nuanced and it's layered, and it's conversational.
Okay.
Sondheim isn't really conversational.
No, not at all.
So you have to take music that's on a level of difficulty that's higher than most music, and then bring in that element of familiarity and interaction that you really don't have with Sondheim. Sondheim is a bunch of, different individual vignettes being put forward. Yeston weaves a tapestry.
Okay. Wow, that's a beautiful way to put it. Okay. When it comes to the casting, it is said that casting will make or break a show. That's often what people in the know will say. So, how do you know when you're casting? How do you make decisions like that? Do you just know when you see the person, or do you have some people you just know and some people you have to see again, or because different directors do it and have it in different ways. So how does that work for you? How is that process for you?
The process for me is different than it is for most people, and I think that's probably why I'm probably not the most popular choice for directing in Ventura County.
Okay.
No, because I believe in giving people a chance that don't normally get a chance.
Okay.
But
this theater is exceptionally good for that.
They
are very
really
welcoming for people that might not get seen otherwise.
Oh, I completely agree, but I kind of open up the spectrum even more because I'll look at people who normally wouldn't even be considered for a certain type of role.
Okay.
During...
I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
I kicked. It's not going to work.
We have a costume
dress
disaster.
That's on the table.
He's handling.
In the room? Or?
Yeah, where I sit.
It's what the directors do.
In the...
Yeah. There's a black dress there. It was the one I wanted you to try last night anyway. So I had a feeling this wasn't going to work, but no, I think you're gonna like the other dress much better. No problem.
I told them what was going on.
Part of the benefits, if you want to call it a benefit, of directing and also having a background in
costume design. Yes, that's exactly what that was. Because I'd have been like, you need to speak to the costumer. Sorry.
Yeah, so I made...
Thank you, I forgot where I was.
Oh, I didn't. So I made some choices that I think most of the theaters out here would probably be a bit nervous about. But Camarillo was bold enough and brave enough to trust and let go.
They really do have that.
Yeah.
I have noticed in the past few years, they really are making some very interesting, forward-thinking decisions.
Yeah, and I think they'll be
But those people
rewarded.
are talented. I mean, you.
Oh my God!
chose
Yes,
them. Yes.
They are beastly, ridiculously talented, and that's part of what's so sad about it, is that there were people who walked through the door who ultimately got cast in this show that if they were to try for that type of role, other theaters, they probably would have been laughed out, or people would have gone through the motions and not really considered them, instead of taking the time to listen to them, to see what they could do, and to hear what they could put forth.
Now, why do you think that you have that sort of mentality? Do you think, are you from this area?
No, I'm not from this area.
And you were trained professionally, and you have a degree in theater. Do you think that gives you a slightly different perspective?
I do.
I mean, there's plenty of directors in the area that might make those same choices. Why do you think yours is different?
You're absolutely right. There are plenty of directors, and I'm not sure that there's plenty of directors that would make the same choices.
In this particular instance?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes. I would take you to the mat on that.
Well, I know some that make some very bold decisions constantly. And I thought that's what you meant. But you mean in this particular instance, in general, you try to keep it open as much as possible.
Yes.
And because you like to be able to see, you could have anyone walk in and they could be amazing. And if you cut that off, then you really aren't getting the whole talent of the area.
Oh, yeah. If I sit down at the table with a closed-off mind, and by closed-off mind, I mean if I sit down at the table with a specific idea in mind.
Oh, we're going to hear music.
With a specific idea in mind, I'm limiting my choices. What I have to do is sit at the table with a clean slate, with an absolutely open mind and open arms, and just let it come at me, let it wash over me, and see what moves me.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're getting the light is good.
If you don't mind, I actually have a great example.
Okay, go for it.
This question. One of the members of this cast, when she came, she was auditioning for a role completely different than what she was asking for. And it was getting towards the end of the night, and I'd kept her back just to read her with a couple of other people. And there was a guy that I needed to read for Guido, but I didn't have anyone to read a specific role. So I just asked her if she would mind reading the role, even though it wasn't one she was auditioning for. And she was sure, she was game. She read it. She blew me away. She knocked it out of the park. She was absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, that's amazing.
And right there, it actually, there was a little bit of a conception starting to form in my mind of what I wanted for that character. She smashed it.
Really?
She just smashed
and
it.
And you just redid it.
Completely redid it.
Wow.
So yeah, I ended up going in a completely different direction for that character, and I couldn't be happier.
So, as a director, because you have a very open mind that way, and you've done so many shows, what do you want to impress upon your actors?
The freedom to truly explore. I'm finding, especially in community theater, a lot of actors are not comfortable. They're uncomfortable if you give them that much freedom. Actors want. I was surprised by the number of actors that actually want blocking that tells them go from point A to point B, and then pick up a cup and take 2 sips and put it down, and then turn stage right, walk 4 steps, and then sit down and cross your legs, and then look up pleadingly at your at your partner. No, I think, at least for me, I think that you give starting points and maybe a midpoint and an end point.
Yes.
And the actor, through their choices and the way that they connect with the character, they find their motivation to get from point A to point B and from point B to point C.
Yes.
And I think that that's a more organic route to get to where you want to go. So that was interesting with some of the actors.
Do you think it's because you have young people?
I think it's
because when you're first being trained and you're first starting, that's something you're desperate for, because finding your way to the midpoint and then to the end, you're like, I'm not sure I can do that. I don't know how to do that. I need you to feed me the everything.
No, and that's true, but actually that's part of the beauty of community theater. Community theater should be a place to learn and explore and grow, and I find that the people who want that are either younger or they don't have as much experience. The people who are trained, the people who are using community theater as a sort of a place
a hobby?
A hobby or a place to exercise their acting muscle.
Yes, creative outlets.
The people who have a little more experience under their belts usually appreciate more freedom. So I find it as a sliding scale, and usually if people are uncomfortable with it, it's because they don't have as much experience.
That's true. But it's nice that you can adapt.
Oh yeah.
That's a nice thing.
Oh yeah.
So,
I've had to approach blocking and giving feedback and guidance to all 12 of my actors 12 completely different ways.
it's like children. I have 6 children. That's why that's funny. All right,
You have 6 children?
I do.
Really?
We are actually losing our light, so we are going to go through really quick. So, what would you like to tell your audiences? Since we're losing light quickly, it looks like. I don't know if I have a flash on there. It looks like we're losing.
I would like to tell them that 9 is not. It's not the usual musical that you see out there. It is a very unique musical. It is what I would call a cerebral musical. It is one that really challenges your senses, and it's one that really engages you.
Yeah, the structure of this show involves moving from fantasy to reality and back again. I read it described as a fever dream. Which
That's
I thought,
a really good way to put it.
I read that from one of your cast members, actually. Miss Sarah said that, I believe. So
Miss Sarah would know.
yeah. So how do you incorporate those changes in this so that it's not so jarring to the audience?
One device that we're using, which is actually laid out in the script, and it's easier to follow since we don't have all the ensemble people up there too, is we have a gallery. The women are on stage practically the whole show.
Oh, wow.
They never leave the stage.
Oh, wow.
So you can actually see when they transition from being a Greek chorus member or their character to, at times, they're all showgirls, or they're all whores, or they're all nuns. But you can see those transitions, and I think having everyone there in the gallery and having to be able to engage and watch them as they watch the show unfold, and being able to follow transitions through the gallery is a really effective tool.
That's pretty cool. So there are some very adult scenes with Guido. Some. How did you handle that, having a 10-year-old?
Are we talking big Guido or little Guido?
Little Guido, tiny
Okay.
Guido.
Tiny Guido.
Tiny, super skinny,
Tiny.
adorable as all get out. Want to pinch his cheeks, Guido.
Yes.
Oh my God, he's so cute.
Now Wesley is handling it amazingly, as are his parents. From auditions forward, it was part of the audition packet. It was part of the discussion and the announcements every night of auditions that, due to the nature of the show and what is being explored in the show, that there are things that have to happen that are integral to the plot and integral to the story. They're in the script.
Okay.
And so we let parents know up front,
That's what's going to happen.
just to make sure that everyone was okay and on board.
Do you have to explain things to him, or do you just let it go? Just work through it like an actor would.
The night before, for blocking each one of those things, the night before it was going to happen, I talked to his parents. His parents talked to him at home that night, and then the next day we reviewed it together, me, Wesley, and his parents. All 4 of us reviewed it together, and we made sure that Wesley was okay before we did it. And then we brought, the actress in, and we walked through it a couple of times. It's like, okay, Wesley, there you go. There you go. And he was absolutely fine. He did what most 9-year-old boys would do. He had his first touch. He giggled. Life went on.
Yes. Okay. So with your background, we're almost done because we're losing light. Do you have any advice for actors? They always want to know what directors are looking for, what directors want them to know. Anything you want to throw out at the internet?
Yes. What I would like actors to know, and this is coming from someone who performs himself, is really just embrace and be free to be who you want to be. The only way you can fully explore a character or fully explore the journey of a character is to be willing to just dive in balls or tits first. And yes, I said balls, I said tits. Yes, I did. And just be...
Can you say that on YouTube? Oh my goodness! I'm
terrible.
fired!
I'm terrible.
Go ahead.
And just be free to take yourself as far as you can go. If you have to take one word to heart, fearless. Be fearless.
Okay, so what is your proudest moment of this cast and this show so far?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so first week rehearsal, our materials hadn't arrived yet. They were late. They were going to be a week late.
Oh yeah.
So I usually like to start with music first because I believe you learn music, then you learn choreography.
I'm going to move
and
this
then-
and get you in better light.
Ah, there we are.
There you are. Go ahead.
You learn music first, then you learn choreography, and then you learn blocking. You stack it. So that by the time you approach choreography, if you know your music, your choreography will come more easily to you. And if you know your when you learn your blocking, if you have your choreography and your music under your belt, then everything just sort of falls into place. It's a nice little package. Mm-hmm. But we didn't have music, so I had to. The only thing we had was the script, so I had to dive into blocking from the get-go. So I started with the very first scene in the show, which is a beast to block.
Oh no!
Because our main character is sitting at a table, scribbling away, trying to figure out what his next script is going to be. And in his mind, all the women in his life just start coming. They just start appearing, and they appear, and they start talking, and they talk over each other, and it just becomes this cacophony of voices as you know as it builds and builds and builds and builds, and then one of the characters switches, and she goes from constant chatter to singing. So the cacophony of voices becomes discordant singing.
Beautiful
And then
chaos.
it goes exactly, and then it goes right into the overture. And on the first day, the first time bringing these women together, these glorious, amazing women. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the males in this show are great, and I think that they'll deliver. But this show, just like the story, is all about the women. But these 10 women who had not worked together before and didn't have any music, and they just had to create this cacophony of sound out of nowhere, because it really is just ad-lib, Guido, Contini. And it just becomes this symphony of chaos. And it was absolutely glorious. It was absolutely beautiful, and it was flawless the first day. And to me, that told me I had the right cast.
Oh, that's amazing.
So from day one, I knew that I chose right.
Well, we're losing light, so I want to thank you for joining us today. Be sure and subscribe so you can get all the latest videos, all the interviews we're going to do, maybe a few periscopes. Check us out at TheatrePulse. And this is us striving for a more creative, empowering community in Ventura, Los Angeles counties. And we shall see you soon.